Hello, all you noobs, and welcome to another episode of Texting. I'm Mark Will in Taipei.
I'm Ruben in St. Petersburg.
And joining us again is Crazy Joe Greenwood,
Oh my god!
the
Wow,
Dylanologist.
wow! A real subtle dig at me in the intro there for one, and then I think setting me up for failure with that nickname as well, because I feel like
Not
my
at all.
opinions are going to be a bit bland. But I'm
Not at
looking forward to
all.
this.
Well, welcome back. We wouldn't be here at all without you because you have provided us with the title of this episode, which, by the way, is season 3, episode 15. And the title is His Funniest Album of the 70s. And we're talking about Bob Dylan's Desire from 1976. So as we progress through this album, let's think about in what ways it is the funniest album of the 70s, the funniest Dylan album of the 70s. Any initial thoughts on that? Anyone?
Tom, do you have much to say on Dylan's output of the '70s
It's
to
all you,
comment
bro.
on the humor?
It's all you.
So, I mean, my logic of like this is the funniest album that he did in the '70s. I mean, it's not the funniest song he did in the '70s. That would be New Pony, which is on Street Legal, which is a hilarious song. In the sense of not that he's trying to be funny, in that it's just got a very divorced man energy to it, which I greatly appreciate. But I think this is quite a funny album to listen to if you think about it within the context of his '70s discography. Of he releases Blood on the Tracks, which to me is the sort of magnus opus of his entire discography. And then he comes back with this rambling, divergent mess of an album in which the central theme of it is him almost taunting his wife with all these women that he's cheating on her with. And then he produces a song at the end where he's saying, "Please don't leave me," which, spoiler, does not work, listeners. So, yeah, I think in that element, in terms of the production side of it and the context of his life, that's what makes it funny. And then also, yeah, just the songs on it are bizarre, rambly works for the most part. And then you get to the last three songs, and I feel like those are kind of like real diamond tracks at the end of it that feel really well formed compared to the others. But much like
I,
Desire, I'm rambling right now. So,
well, I
go on.
hadn't thought about the infidelities. That's an interesting aspect that we'll have to consider. But I like what you say about the messiness of it. I mean, this is true even of like the band. This is like a very the performances are very sloppy. I mean, last time we talked about
Yeah.
Love and Theft, what a tight band is
Yep.
featured on that album, and this is just like a shambles. There's something
Yeah.
shambolic about the performance, the band, and I don't know, the production. I guess is fine, but
Yeah.
you hear
Yeah. Agreed.
all of these especially I was listening to Hurricane before we turned on the mics, and they're all of these drum fills that don't
No.
quite make it, and like the vocals are out of sync, like the background vocals and the lead vocals are
Or even
not
in like
always
even in like Romance in Durango, where like for like 5 seconds there's a horn, there's like a brass section for just 5 seconds, and then it's just never heard again for basically the whole album. But just for those 5 seconds, he wanted some brass of some description, and yeah, it is a sort of shaggy album. That again, I think because of him and the context he sort of brings to it, makes it hilarious to me. But then I think probably as an outsider, as Tom is, me saying it's funny because he's cheating on his wife a lot with most of the women singing on this album, and then he ends it with the song of "Please Don't Leave Me." Maybe isn't that funny, but maybe that's just for the super fans, I guess.
Well, let me ask you, maybe you can get into this later, but can you make the specific correlations of these infidelities? Because, like, ISIS, from my understanding, was actually about Sarah. So, I mean, it's not like she's only mentioned at the end. I could be wrong about that.
No. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that it's. I don't know how to describe it, but it's more. I think it's more just how sort of aloof most of that album comes across, and then this last song is so desperate. I mean, we'll get to it when we talk about the song, so I don't want to give away too much about it, but how aloof most of the album is.
My other
that last one.
My other like instant reaction to what you said is just interesting that you called the last 3 tracks diamonds, whereas for me, like, those are the weakest 3 tracks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's a good sign usually.
Yeah,
because...
but you love Joey though, which is I think that says a lot about you.
Love-hate relationship, just like with you.
Thank you. Oh right. Oh, that's maybe why you like that song so much. Okay, cheers.
No, but seriously, I mean that's probably like a very interesting song to discuss in terms of its merits or weaknesses. But in general, I'm just saying that, you know, Oh Sister, One More Cup of Coffee, Isis, Hurricane, those are all like my standout tracks, and I kind of struggle a little bit, particularly with Romance in Durango and Black Diamond Bay. Hello.
Okay. Well, I've got
anyway.
I've got different highlights myself, so this should be interesting.
Oh, fantastic.
And that's usually a strength of an album, right? I mean, because that means that there isn't necessarily like tracks which everyone would call filler.
No.
Potentially
I think,
Mozambique, we might all agree on, but we can get into that because it has its charms too.
Yeah. I think that song actually sums up my issues with this album. Because when I listened to it again yesterday, and like in the middle of listening to it, I was just like, I don't think I like this album that much. So you know, I will enjoy talking about it, but the actual enjoyment of listening to it was quite difficult, and I think that's why I like those last 3 songs so much, because I actually feel like they're the most well formed, I think, musically, maybe. But I don't know. We can go into it further.
Can I ask one more question, which is just, I know it's in the top 200.
One more question for the road. What's that?
Exactly. I know it's in the top 200. I think it was like 173 on Rolling Stone's top 500 albums of all time.
Well, that doesn't mean much.
Sure.
Well,
all I'm trying to put out there is like, what is the critical consensus on this album? Because you guys have a slightly like maybe flippant initial comment on it. I'm not saying you're outwardly like dismissing the album, but in Dylan's discography, where does it stand for you?
Well, I put it in my top 10, which I subsequently revised, but you know, I like it. It's canonical for me, I would say.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not like on the same level as Love and Theft or Blood on the Tracks or Highway 61 or Blonde on Blonde. And I think you can certainly make an argument that it is funny. There's just something, it's strange, it's unique, it's different. Of course you could say everything he does is unique, right? Like he's the shapeshifter and every album or project is something new, while at the same time being like everything else, you know. Always, what was it John Peel said about the fall? Always different, always the same. I mean, that's true of Dylan in a way. We're always going to hear that harmonica somewhere.
Yeah.
Whatever other instrumentation is.
I always thought the thing
employed.
with I always thought the thing with Desire was that from the critical consensus was that this was like his last great album before he just went off the deep end and didn't produce anything of much worth until Time Out of Mind or Love and Theft. And even then, I think he'd lost a lot of those people. For me personally, it ranks probably somewhere in the sort of 15 to 20 range if I was to rank all the albums of his discography. Yeah, I think that's kind of. I think if I met like a Dylan fan who said that they were a hardcore Dylan fan, and this was like in their top 5 Dylan albums, I'd be a little bit questioning of their love, or not that they don't love him, but just maybe they hadn't dived into the other stuff as much. Because I think the crispness of some of the later productions puts it above this, and I think some of the songwriting of a lot of the other albums puts it above this as well. So
let me just push you on that really quickly. So,
Shoot.
assuming that Dylan fan who does rank this album so highly, assuming that they were very well versed in his catalog, what do you think are the things that would stand out to that hypothetical fan? Like, why does a person love Desire?
Well, I mean, I want to save that for the track by track discussion.
Yeah.
I think when we talk about our highlights, we can maybe answer that question as to why someone would consider this an important milestone, if not his very best work, still, a respectable production. I mean, it did sell well. Like that's like in terms of popular appeal, maybe that just happened to be because of the time, but it is one of his best sellers, I think.
And also with any of his albums, I think the fact that they're all, not all of them, but a lot of them are a reaction to the one before, and then the one following it is a reaction to this. I think that's really quite prevalent with the four significant ones of the 70s, where, Blood on the Tracks, to Desire, to Street Legal, to Slow Train Coming. Those four do play off of each other quite clearly, I think. So I think that's probably another key part of that album, of why it probably still has quite a high standing, is because of its relation to those other three. So yeah.
Yeah, and maybe after Blood on the Tracks, he just got the benefit of the doubt, right? Like sometimes that happens. Yeah. The work that follows the masterpiece is like overrated because expectations are so high. But
for sure,
I think we can still find reasons to say that this is a, dare I say, great album, even if it is funny and sloppy and messy. And I'm thinking now, as we're talking about the Beatles' White Album, which is in some ways also a shambolic mess, but it may be my favorite. It may be my favorite Beatles album. I mean,
oh really?
At times I say it is. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of junk on it, and a lot of things that you might say are in bad taste. And of course, George Martin famously said, I wish they had just done a single album rather than a double album. I mean, I see what he means, but I disagree. I like the fact that they threw everything at the wall to see what would stick. That eclecticism and that experimentation is something that I love about the Beatles. And so maybe there's an aspect of that here, even though this is a single album, and kind of a short one too, with only 9 songs. But again, we'll save that for the track by track analysis. Let me just finish up with the intro here. Any comment on the cover? Dylan's attire here with with his I don't know, the collar of his coat. Famous image.
Yeah. It's probably, is that like the most synonymous image of him from the 70s now? Is that cover? You can, I don't know. It feels like he's just walked off from the song One More Cup of Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels like he's in that song, like literally leaving. So that's sort of my feeling of it. I don't know.
I mean, so there's elements of the gypsy, the hippie, and the cowboy. You can see like little, and even you could argue the Vogue as well. You know what I mean? Like, because he also was a little bit into his fame and celebrity by this point. So I'm just saying, with the scarf, for example, I mean, I think that that's kind of, you could throw in chic as well as like a fourth adjective. You got the kind of fur there as well. I mean, that you wouldn't really associate that with the hippie or the gypsy so much.
No,
I don't know.
no, it's more like a winter cowboy sort of look.
Any thoughts about the title? Why is this called Desire? I mean, I had a thought about it when I was listening just now before we went live to the last track. I mean, is there any other connotation
reading
that
of the
Desire?
title?
Yeah, why Desire? Why did he call this album Desire?
Because he's desiring other women and also desiring to keep his marriage together, which
okay,
that's I don't know, like as blunt as a reading as that can be.
But how about in relation to the, protest songs or song, and then like narratives about social outcasts? What's their relationship to Desire? We don't have to answer now, but it's something to think about.
I don't have an answer for that, I'm afraid, right now. I am trying to think about it, of like, does each song tap into that feeling? I don't know if it does.
Tomek,
I'm not sure.
I guess
Ruben.
The only footnote is that he's got this picture of the Buddha here, on the back, which is obviously like tied into desire, or like the attempt to not desire.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I wonder if that was a conscientious juxtaposition.
Well, let's look at that, because as luck would have it, I have the back of the album too, which is interesting. You've got the tarot card, the Empress, which makes me think of Isis. You've got Joseph Conrad over here. You've got the Buddha, as you mentioned. I think this is Emmylou Harris in the bottom left corner, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Looks like Jacques Levy here. Is this Sarah in the bottom right? Maybe.
Maybe. It's not Joan Baez who's also on this album,
right?
Is it? No.
Okay. Well, again, something to think about. I mean, Buddha, Reuben Carter is likened to the Buddha in one line of Hurricane, so that might be relevant. But let me just quickly read from, this is also from the back cover. Here's, I guess, what Dylan himself asked us to consider as we're listening. Where do I begin? On the heels of Rimbaud, moving like a dancing bullet through the secret streets of a hot New Jersey night filled with venom and wonder. Meeting the Queen Angel in the reeds of Babylon, and then to the fountain of sorrow to drift away in the hot mass of the deluge. To sing praise to the king of those dead streets, to grasp and let go in a heavenly way, streaming into the lost belly of civilization at a standstill. Romance is taking over. Tolstoy was right. These notes are being written in a bathtub in Maine under ideal conditions, in every curio lounge from Brooklyn to Guam, from Lowell to Durango. Oh, sister, when I fall into your spacey arms, cannot you feel the weight of oblivion in the songs of redemption on your backside? We surface alongside Miles Standish and take the rock. We have relations in Mozambique. I have a brother or two and a whole lot of karma to burn. Isis and the moon shine on me. When Reuben gets out of jail, we celebrate in the historical parking lot in sunburned California. It's got that stream of consciousness feel of those lyrical outbursts of the 60s that, we hear on, I guess, most famously Highway 61, but
and Howl.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, these liner notes could have been written by Ginsberg for all we know, but it's certainly like it's kind of like beat poetry liner notes. Certainly, there's the influence of Ginsberg and Kerouac and so on. Any other thoughts about it? I mean, it does kind of give us some a clue as to what the major themes are, even though it's quite an eclectic mix.
I mean, kind of like the reading of it, maybe it was just your reading of it, but the text itself, it does suggest that like this album came from a place of passion compared to the previous one of Blood on the Tracks. That this is more of like a direct outburst, and the fact that it is so like shaggy and rambly maybe ties into that. So that's sort of the main impression I got from those liner notes on the back.
Tomek?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how it's like when you write a poem and I assign you 6 words you have to use in the poem, right? So he's like, he's taken the track titles and found ways to interweave them. I mean, he doesn't address all of them, but it seems like quite a few are referenced, which is quite clever. And yeah,
as liner notes go, I have to say I like them. I mean, pretty interesting, pretty poetic, rhapsodic. It's not like this album came about as I reflected on current events and personal tragedies. I mean, it's just like we're right into it immediately, into the flow of that poetic, rhapsodic stream of consciousness.
I have a thread that you guys might want to jump on or not, but I heard from someone that the design of this back cover is an allusion to Mamas and the Papas, one of the guys in there, who then like became infamous for some kind of weird crimes, maybe sex crimes or something.
Well,
I just heard
Phillips.
it in reference. Okay.
John Phillips. Yeah, I saw that image that you're talking about. It's kind of, I think he's in profile as well, John Phillips, and he's maybe wearing a fur coat also. Maybe this is total parody, like the Dylan pick is a parody. I'll put that in the show notes. But the crime you're talking about is he allegedly had relations, to use the phrase Dylan just used, with his daughter, Mackenzie Phillips.
I knew it was something distasteful from the way that the podcast that I was listening to wanted to kind of move on from that topic.
Mackenzie Phillips, famous for
I don't remember.
Okay.
Oh, you listened to the episode and it was like an excerpt?
I listened to 10 different reviews, discussions on this album.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have nothing to say, right? You have no opinion, no comment. Yeah, we hear you.
He's just going to take the opinions he heard on Jokerman and just regurgitate it. Is that what you're going to do, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Which is fine.
Anyway, Mackenzie Phillips of One Day at a Time fame. Allegedly, she had a relationship with her father that was highly inappropriate. So I don't know why they brought that up in the context of the picture, but I guess he is forever associated with that crime now.
I just sent you guys in a WhatsApp chat picture of this album that is meant to be referencing. I guess it is the front cover though, not necessarily the back cover.
Yeah, it's the front
weird.
image.
Yeah,
I've never seen this before.
Mm.
And this came out before Desire, obviously, right?
That I should also fact check, because
maybe John Phillips is parodying Desire, but I think this came out first.
One of the first comments underneath this Reddit is John Phillips was a disgusting human being. Nice.
Well,
and the response is just because dude piped down his daughter.
All right, can we not? Can we not do this?
I'm just reading. Okay.
No,
All
no,
right.
you are choosing as well. It's not just reading, is it? Thank you.
You're platforming those odious views. So,
Yeah,
all right, moving on. I think we
please.
have to. I think we have to understand this album in the context of what was going on at the time, right? Like Dylan is on this never-ending tour with a group that he calls the Rolling Thunder Review, and this is a movie poster from the Scorsese pseudo documentary about it.
Mm,
I don't know if I'm sure Crazy Joe probably saw it. Tomek, maybe you didn't, but you should. It's
it's
interesting.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to
It's
see it
great.
for sure.
The footage of the performances is just fantastic. Just seeing these sort of unwieldy ragtag group of people like just charging into some random small town and then just putting on the show and then leaving the next day or even that night, and it's just wonderful. But it's also then quite funny then the juxtaposition then of Dylan in the present talking about it, and
Right.
him just sort of like, he's his own great self-mythologizer, and he's almost like trying to find a way to like re-wrestle the footage into an image that he wants out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it makes for an interesting viewing experience.
And there's an interesting Sharon Stone appearance, which is totally fictional.
Yes, very, very,
And
very
I'm
odd.
sure there are other elements too, like the alleged director of the documentary is completely fictional. So,
Yeah. Well, this is
I
around
don't.
about the time when he made Ronaldo and Clara, wasn't it? That film. I don't know if you've ever tried to see it, Mark.
I I haven't. No.
It's borderline unwatchable. Like I watched it for a couple minutes and just it's in no fit state to really be watched, to be honest. So it's not really something that's worth seeking out unless you've got like a real fix or you know or a need to have a Dylan fix of the true obscure variety. It's very much not worth watching.
And he wrote it and directed it. Is that the
And
story?
starred in it. Yeah.
And starred in it. And was
There's a
Sarah in it too?
Sarah was in it. Yeah. There's a great line in, I think, I can't remember in which newspaper, maybe it was like the New York Times, where they say like just panning it and saying that he looks at her with the doe eyes of a John. And it's just like, what a cruel thing to say about a person looking lovingly at his wife. It's just like, oh, okay. I think you need to let some love into your heart if that's your reading of his performance, which apparently is bad. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was. Anyway.
Well, so I want to say the Desire was recorded during a touring break. Yes, I mean it's the Rolling Thunder Review group for the most part. This band of gypsies, to use the Hendrix related or Hendrix inspired term, but that's basically what they are. As you say, they just roll into town, these small towns and like smaller venues. He's getting away from the arena rock thing that the arena rock trip that maybe the Stones were on around the same time. He's going to smaller venues and he's bringing this ragtag band of gypsies who are playing, uh, unusual rock instruments, like most notably violin is an important part. The fiddle is an important part of the sound of this group. And we've already talked about how the performances are pretty there's not that same tightness that we hear in other Dylan groups. I mean, certainly not the Love and Theft band, and maybe even the band itself, although they could be shambolic at times too. But this is I don't know, maybe this is the real thing. It's like it's a group of minstrels who just they're traveling minstrels, and they're they're maybe not virtuosos, but they know how to put on a show and they know how to play together.
Maybe that's the thing that Tom asked earlier, where it was, why would someone have this be their favorite Dylan album if they're a real Dylan fan? And maybe that's it, where it's like they actually do capture the live feeling of Dylan, of this era, as cleanly as possible. And I think there is something to be said for that, but it's not quite in fitting with my personal taste. Yeah.
What do we make of the white face? Because here we have, the first slide featured that, and here we see it again. And if you look closely, you can even see Joan Baez in whiteface too. Like, what is this about? Is he trying to be some kind of Native American ghost dance persona, or what's happening here?
I think it's maybe a bit of that. I think maybe it's also like the reverse minstrel thing that he's going for, perhaps. I don't know. I never quite got a real read on it. I always just thought he was kind of like poking at something, but didn't specify what, just so that maybe you could be offended by many things, and he could say, "Oh, it's not really that," or "It is that," to sort of get around it. I don't know. He can be sort of vague like that. But yeah, I never really got like a good reading on it. I did think it was more like a kind of a bit of a spiritual thing,
shamanistic.
Sort of yeah. That was more my sort of thinking. But
or maybe he was influenced by Kiss,
which is actually more likely. I reckon. Yeah.
He did record a song with Gene Simmons.
What song was that? Is that the new Reagan, the new Ronald Reagan biopic where Bob Dylan has a song on the soundtrack? Did him and Gene collaborate for that?
I've never heard it, but Gene Simmons did a solo album at one point. I don't even know when it was. And his record company gave him...
That must be awful.
His record company gave him some money, and so a lot of money. So he said, well, maybe I can write a song with Bob Dylan. So he called him up, and Gene Simmons asked him, "Do you know who I am?" And Dylan says, "I know who you are, Mr. Kiss." And they got together and they wrote a song, and it was on the album. I've never heard it, but maybe that's something for the show notes too. So there could be a connection there. And in fact, isn't there something about that in the movie? I think we mentioned Sharon Stone. She's talking about how she was a Kiss fan. Again, this is totally fictional. And then I think she may try to take credit for the white face. I'll have to watch that again. I was jesting when I originally made that remark, but there may be something to it actually, which is perhaps more disturbing. So yeah, maybe it's like we're talking 76, so Bowie has already been out. The glam rock thing has already started. Maybe this is his answer to that, some kind of strange
that's
reaction.
Another thing he's always done. That's always another thing he's always done, is like try to sort of latch on to trends, but in his own specific way. Like if you think about his comeback in the 90s, where he was, had a bit of a rockier sound. Neil Young had sort of had like a bit of a revitalization, playing with like grunge bands, and they gave Neil Young a lot of credit. And so I think Bob was just like, "Oh, I've got to bring a more rockier, heavier sound to it," but obviously did it his own way, where it had a bit of a country twang to it. Probably best shown in the Woodstock performance that he did, which I just am absolutely obsessed with that performance, all elements of it. So yeah, maybe Bob's version of glam rock is breaking out the white paint and a fiddle. That would make most sense if he was going to do that.
Joe, what are those dancers in Devon called who wear blackface?
Oh, you mean like a Morris dancer?
Yeah, Morris dancer. Is it possible there's some element of like folk I mean, because he's
Maybe
wearing it in like a folksy way. So I'm saying it's
maybe, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. That's also a good reading as well, because they have like the little scarves and whatever else that they sort of do their little weird dance with, where they slapping their knees and thighs.
It's good
And,
shit. It's good shit.
Yeah, it's
I
the
do
original
like
breakdancing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Those like right wing morons online that are like return to tradition, and they're like that's their response to breakdancing is to break out the Morris dancing instead.
Right.
Is the yeah. Do you know what the main guy in a Morris dancing troupe is called? Because it's always men. Do you know what the main guy is called?
Please elucidate.
It's called the Mummy.
Okay.
They're referred to as the Mummy. And I bring that up because my mum told me that, and she told me that it always creeps her out whenever she sees them. And whenever we saw them, she's like, which one do you think the Mummy is? And to sort of like scare me, I guess. But I don't know. It's, maybe it's got a folky thing to it, the white face, but I don't know.
Maybe it's
Should we dive into the album?
innovative gender reversal.
Maybe.
Mummy rather than daddy. Yes, we should. Let's move on. Just quickly, though, before we look at the individual tracks, another unique thing about this album is the number of collaborators that Dylan employs. I mean, I think this character here, those of you watching can see the slide of Jacques Levy, who co-wrote, I think, 8 of the 9 songs, if I'm not mistaken. So that's not something that he typically did. Dylan, that is. Why do you think he would do that? Like, he's just burned out after Blood on the Tracks, and he
That's
wants,
my thinking, yeah.
Yeah, wants some help.
And maybe also he thought that perhaps bringing in another person would make it a bit more, ragged, and he wanted to tap into that ragged quality, and he wasn't getting that himself. So bringing in a second person kind of pull him in another direction, might have, brought that out of him a bit more. But I think maybe the emotional burden of doing Blood on the Tracks and then this probably was
that
part
makes
of it.
sense. Do we know what the nature of their collaboration was? Like, I mean, did Levy contribute mostly to the music? I can't imagine him like dictating to Dylan about the lyrics.
A funny anecdote that I heard is that when Dylan originally approached Levy had to he kind of stopped and explained to Dylan, but I write lyrics, so why would you want to work with me? You're the lyrics guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it was on the lyrics explicitly, but I think that that there was some irony to that, I guess. Yeah,
that's interesting. Maybe like Levy went in there thinking, I mean, I guess would a guy like that ever turn down an opportunity to work with him? To think like, God, I'm having to work with this Titanic artist, and I'm a lyrics guy. Can I really work with him? He probably would have got something from it at the very least.
For sure.
I mean,
I think he was just humbled in a way, It's
yeah.
Because that was
Levy or Dylan?
Dylan. No, sorry, Levy. Yeah, Levy.
And he's a theater guy, right? Like, he was best known for his theatrical productions. Okay, well, more about him later, perhaps. Another very important collaborator is the wonderful Emmylou Harris, whose background vocals are incredible and a very, I would say, a signature part of this album. Like, it helps define the sound of Desire. I think we'd all agree on that.
Yeah, Joan Baez did backing as well for this, didn't she? If I remember correctly, as well. But Emmylou Harris was the main one. Have I got that mixed up?
I'm not sure that Joan Baez appears on it, but maybe there's another backing singer, Ronnie Blakely, I want to say, on at least one track. But I think Emmylou is on pretty much everything.
Yes. Yeah. Very distinct quality to it.
Yeah. And of course, the fiddle of Scarlett Rivera, who here appears as the Spider Woman. of course, that's heard on every track as well. It's even more prominent than the Dylan-esque harmonica. So that could be another reason why people like this album. Maybe they just like the fiddle of Ms. Rivera and the background vocals of Emmylou Harris. I mean, they do. It is a very distinctive sound that you don't hear on any other album, really. And did you know this? According to Wikipedia, that's Eric Clapton playing guitar on Romancin' Durango. I never knew that until I prepared for this episode. I can't
Interesting
really...
collaborator.
Yeah.
To bring on.
But I also heard that Clapton was kind of disgusted by the chaos that you guys have been alluding to of the band, and he kind of walked away from the recording very early on.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Eric Clapton is like, one of the most technically sound and gifted guitarists going. And he was, the main guy directing Derek and the Dominoes, and obviously had his own. Had he gone solo by this stage? He must have done, right? But
I 76, I think so.
Yeah, so it was probably that side of it as well. But Eric Clapton has never written a song as good as even Neighborhood Bully, to be honest. So it's a bit rich and cheeky for him to say anything about Bob's old recording thing. And Neighborhood Bully, by the way, is an awful song. So don't suggest otherwise.
Did he write "Lay Down, Sally" himself?
I don't know. No, I'm not a big Clapton head.
I've always loved that. The guitar work on that is great too, of course.
Crazy Joe's just being provocative.
Yeah.
No.
Did he?
I was gonna make another Eric Clapton joke, but then I thought, like, I don't want to. After Tom's disgraceful display earlier, I was just like, I don't want to make this too base. And I've often been accused of making gatherings and people a lot more base than before they met me. So I don't want to do that with this podcast.
Let's give him credit for "Sunshine of Your Love" and "Politician" from his Cream days. He probably had some help from either.
What about Layla? No Love?
I mean, yeah, sure.
The Goodfellas scene, yeah. I'd say for that, but yeah, it's all right. Layla's all right. I'm not a big Clapton guy, so I can't really comment entirely on his discography, even though I have. But it's I don't know. It doesn't draw me. It doesn't draw me in.
Okay, well, let's get into side one. Let's put the record on the turntable, and literally that's what you did, Tomek. You ordered this in Russia. Tell us about that whole experience of ordering the LP.
Yeah, there's just a lot of people selling stuff online. There's a secondhand version of Amazon here. We have like a version of Amazon as well called Ozon, but there's a site called Avito where you can buy secondhand stuff. So I got this from Moscow for about $21.
Bargain.
But, it's quite an old print. I think it's old. I mean, 1975, maybe.
Jesus.
Wait, that's maybe not. It looks super old and it doesn't sound that good. So it's one of those things where you're like, should I even listen to the vinyl when you can just listen to it, in a different way? I was going to
ask, how many times do you listen to the vinyl compared to listening to it like digitally?
Yeah, I listened to the vinyl like 3 times and digitally maybe 15. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you went all the way in. My God, I didn't realize you listened to it that many times.
Yeah, but for going from 0, you kind of.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I don't know. You kind of need to.
You got to speed run it. Speed run your love of desire.
Did you show us? Did you show us the?
Sure.
You have it there with you. Yeah, okay, there it is. Anything special about the Russian version, or it's just like a?
I mean, this is an import. Yeah.
Okay. So it's in good condition.
Yes, but it's old, and again, it doesn't sound that good. So I mean, I know if I spent more, like I was watching some other video today of a guy who was saying, "Oh, and this one goes for $150," and it's like, so I know that there are editions of this album which have been re-released, which vinyl heads would, which would give you a completely different experience.
I'm not one for that with music, but definitely with books. Like I tend to prefer books that have specific covers. I don't like having a book with a bad, ugly cover on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so if I'm going to read something,
because you're not going to read it anyway. So you just, for you, the important thing is
it's just fuck you. I've been on like the biggest reading kick of my life recently.
Good man.
And just and I feel, I was about to say I feel a lot more intelligent for doing it, but that's not true.
You're just inviting yourself on to another episode of Texting. Then, if you're, in a good way, if you're reading, that's awesome.
Yes, no, have me on if you're going to do a Ted Lewis episode. That's the guy who wrote Get Carter, the novel Get Carter, and as well as others. So,
how about Don Quixote? Is that in your library?
That's a Ted Lewis book too, isn't it?
Yeah, Don Quixote. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I'm sure someone was brutally murdered under those windmills, weren't they? So probably would be a Ted Lewis book. No, I've not read anything like that. Any classic, literally name any classic book, and I've not read it.
We can bring on Kirsten for the classics. So
or Gareth
between the two,
who I do the podcast with. I think he was reading Don Quixote recently, actually.
Nice.
Or was that you? I can't remember.
It was me, but I finally finished it. It took a few months.
He was talking about it recently.
Nice.
By the way, listeners, you can listen to my film podcast, 10 Terabyte Hard Drive, which you'll find in the link below. Thank you, guys.
Cheers. Anyway, we should...
Speaking of classics, why... I mean, we talked about Conrad.
Hurricane.
Why is Tolstoy mentioned in the liner notes?
I thought we moved on.
I feel like Tolstoy was kind of trendy in that hippie... vagabond lifestyle. I mean, like
maybe that's it. Tolstoy was right, he says,
about his queasy aesthetic. I just think of how Into the Wilds, that guy Christopher McCandless, he was like highlighting Tolstoy and quoting him in his last hours. I think there's a vein of Tolstoyans who
quoting from the later non-fiction works, or
I don't think it's so much about like Anna Karenina or War and Peace. It's more like his lifestyle stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're gonna have to forgive the rather basic slides that are featured here. But
I like the basic aesthetic, bro.
Okay. Basic bitches. This is for you. So
Indeed.
Track number 1, of course, is the famous Hurricane. And those of you watching can see an image of the actual Reuben Carter and then the fictionalized Reuben Carter played by Denzel in the movie, which I haven't seen. And then I've also included an image of William Carlos Williams' epic poem, Patterson, which I'll bet I'm the only person who's read.
I love William Carlos Williams, though.
Who's read it. on this particular broadcast.
Is that the poem that inspired the Jim Jarmusch film, Patterson?
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it,
You should watch that film, it's good.
Had some kind of connection to it. I mean, this put Patterson on the map. Would we know about Patterson, New Jersey, were it not for William Carlos Williams? Maybe later, but there's that literary connection too. And in fact, I sent you, Tomek, I sent Ginsberg's liner notes on Desire, and he, of course, mentions William Carlos Williams. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that. I didn't, kind of
unfortunately,
late.
no. Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, there is that connection to Patterson, New Jersey, which is where the story of the hurricane literally takes place. So take it away, either of you.
Do you find this odd that this is the most listened to Bob Dylan song on Spotify?
I noticed that myself as well.
It's weird, isn't it? That's
very. I didn't know that, but that's insane.
It's the one song I heard before listening to the album.
Well, it's because of the movie, of course, but
Possibly, yeah.
That
no,
is
the song's
strange.
super famous, but like, I don't know. I mean, I know that it's. Yeah, I don't know why that is.
It kind of became like a social justice anthem, though, right?
I mean, more plays than like a Rolling Stone. That's maybe it's because it's new for Spotify generation. Like the original Dylanites have already heard like a Rolling Stone a million times, so they don't go to Spotify to play it. But that is that's strange. I've already talked about like those drum rolls that don't quite make it, and like the out of sync vocal tracking. What else do we want to say about?
It's his most catchy hook, possibly. I mean, the chorus, the main chorus that he does. I think he does it twice. Here comes the story of the hurricane. Like it's really catchy, in a way that a lot of his other choruses are very much not catchy, and deliberately so. But I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of got like his most. It's kind of got like a quite classical, almost pop music structure, and then you realise it's like 13 minutes, and it's like, well, maybe it's not that, or however long it is. So maybe I'm confusing that and Joey in terms of song length time there, but
it's long. I mean, it's 8.5 minutes. Yeah.
I mean, there's about most of the songs on this are really long anyway, but I find it is to be his catchiest hook, and actually, as well on the musical side of it, it's I think it's the most propulsive song on this album, because I actually find that most of the tracks don't really have a big change of tempo. When it starts, it kind of maintains the same tempo throughout pretty much all the songs.
Joey's so slow. Oh my god,
it's so slow. It's so slow. When we get to Joey,
sure,
I have found a good use of Joey.
Okay,
so I will get to when we get to that. I'll save it. But yeah, like Hurricane, it does have like really good change of tempos. Like the slight breakdown a bit for the chorus, and then it cuts back in and builds the tempo up again for the verses. Like it has like almost like a runaway train sort of energy to it that I really like. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of it's a bit of just an odd piece. Are we gonna address the use of a naughty word in this song? Are we gonna address that, or are we above that sort of thing?
The N word.
Yes,
I presume that's what you're talking about. Well, it rhymes with trigger.
Yeah,
which is an important part of the story, right? Since we're talking about an alleged murder. Well, I guess the murder did take place. The question is who really killed whom.
I didn't bat my eyes at that. I have zero issues with that.
No, I what are you going to say? This is 1976, and he's quoting
exactly
the community. He's talking about the people in the community, in the black community, actually, that their impression of
right. If it was
Reuben
him saying
Carter,
it, that would have been a completely different thing. But he's you trust his like poetic. Well, definitely. His desire to not be using that in an offensive way. I mean, this stuff is always about intention.
The reason why I bring it up, by the way, is because I've got a colleague who's 22, and she's just gotten into Dylan, or like she was into Dylan, but has like really gotten into it in like the last year or so. And she was saying how like Hurricane was like stuck in her head, and then she mentioned that word. She's like, does he have to use that word or whatever else? And I was feel like, yeah, because he's talking about a bunch of racists that want to, point the finger at someone.
He's not, though. He said to the black folks, he was just a crazy.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, my mistake.
Sorry to push you on that. Yeah.
No, it's fine. Go for it.
But interestingly, like
but
that.
How about the fact that N-word doesn't rhyme with trigger, and it wasn't even a thing in 1976. That wasn't even an option, To point out the obvious.
I don't understand what you're saying.
You mean like it wasn't the done thing to say what it
was? That is
a
recent coinage. People didn't say N-word in 1976, right? if that's what this 22-year-old wants, she wants a bowdlerized version of the song. It doesn't rhyme, and it wasn't an option at that time, and also it doesn't
Yeah, but
have the
obviously
same.
he's not going to say N-word though.
Nobody's. Of course.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's like not even okay. I want to say about this line, what stuck out for me was not that, but was the actual content of that line, which is like, why was he a crazy N-word to the black folks? Like, what I would have assumed he would have been like a hero or something, you know?
Well, I think the point of this is that he's a total outsider. He's not accepted by the black community or obviously the white community, and so he's.
But do we know why that is? Because I thought if he's, especially since he's going to become this kind of like, again, social justice icon, and
well, I think the implication. I mean, for me, the implication was that like, okay, this is just another guy from the community who's gotten in trouble. You know, he probably was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and after all, he's famous and he's not one of us, and maybe he did do it. Probably he did. So fuck him. And
I guess
we've got our own. We've got our own.
That was the reaction. You know, I would expect more of like a solidarity and like a fuck the police type thing.
Yeah, but do we know that it was, or is that just Dylan's impression? I mean,
sure, I don't know. I'm just saying the question that came to mind.
As a disclaimer, I've not looked into this case closely, and I haven't seen the movie. And I know some people have argued after the fact that actually maybe he was guilty. I mean, I don't know how valid that is, but
you fucking dick.
Some people.
What?
I'm just kidding. I was teasing Mark for. I'm teasing you for saying like, oh, he could be guilty. I was being sarcastic.
No, I don't. I'm not saying I believe that.
Understand.
But
I'm just joking anyway.
Wow. I think there's been some.
I throw one question out there, and I've caused a grenade to go off and caused this podcast to go completely off the rails.
It started off the rails. It's never been on the rails, so
fair enough. Yes.
No, I mean, I'm sure that, if you had to ask me, I say, let him out.
I mean, the song's coming from a place of anger. I mean, the song's coming from a place of anger. It's coming, he's standing up for something, and he's trying to provoke you. So naturally, I think using a word like that is going to cause that, to be, to instigate a sort of reaction out of you. But I got to say, like, as you say, with like the rhyming of the word triggered, like there is a lot of other ropey rhyming that goes on there. It's just like, we got you for the motel job and we're talking to your friend Bello. Now you don't want to have to go back to jail. Be a nice fellow.
Right,
It's very primary school, borderline sort of songwriting there. But I think it's more just he's not trying to be too clever with the songwriting because he just wants to get like the pure like rage out of him about this thing. Whether the guy
we're gonna pin this murder on him. He ain't no gentleman Jim.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to ask you, like, because for me this is very impressive as like a product, like a biography, a story, but I wonder like what it loses in terms of replay value because of how long it is, and it's just I don't think it has the same kind of like tightness that or musical variation that you would get from a track that you want to like hear a lot of times. And I think that's like an issue on several tracks on this album is like I wouldn't critique the merit of the track. Like bravo for first of all for the courage to write something like this. The lyrics are great. So it's an impressive work of art, but again, I just think it sacrifices on terms of replay. Like it's not a jam, or it's hard for me to want to listen to like 8 minutes.
I think it works if you're going to listen to the album. If you're going to I'm going to sit down and I'm going to listen to Desire. I think it works in that sense, and it continues or is a part of his lineage of distinct opening tracks or significant opening tracks. So I think it works in that sense. I think it has a replay value, within the context of an album. But I don't know, as a standalone song, probably don't think so. I mean,
It does work
I don't know.
surprisingly well. As you said, there's like the crescendo aspect. There are like
Yes.
enough interesting musical interludes between verses.
Well,
So it could be worse, but
the violin is amazing.
It could be worse.
I'm saying like the nature of a biography track. That's, I guess, my main point is like, do you want to hear a biography over and over again? You know, it's like, I don't know, it just feels like more redundant.
Mark,
to
how
me
many times have you listened to Murder Most Foul again? Like, aren't you at like 30 odd listens?
At least, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think again this fits into maybe his. Maybe it's interesting to listen to again because of the lineage of the folk hero songs that he's done. That maybe in that sense it's an interesting listen. Again, I could then make the joke that of doing a song about JFK, making him a sort of bit of a folk hero. But I don't know. It's I don't know. I think it kind of like actually this song kind of sums up my whole feelings of this album, which is some of the songwriting's brilliant, some of it not so much. It's quite ragged. It's kind of a bit one note in terms of tempo and the sort of musical quality of it. But I don't know.
Well, in terms of the musicality of the song, I think the fiddle is what makes the track for me.
Yeah.
There's some really wild violin passages, and I mean that in the best possible way. But it reminds me of the time I tried to introduce this to a group of American high school students in the barrio, some of whom had seen the movie and they were like, "Oh yeah, I recognize that," but others were like, "What's this country shit?" They thought it was a country song, which was
right.
because it's not hip hop basically. But it is interesting how the film even though I didn't see it, it seems to have raised the profile of this historical figure. And so I'm wondering, what does the innocence or guilt of the actual Reuben Carter, does that affect our enjoyment or appreciation of the song at all? Does it matter?
No.
Does the time?
No, not at all.
Does the time? Is this dated in any way? I ask this because on my new solo album, I've got a song which is very contemporary. It refers to like specific historical figures, and I wonder, like, is it going to be meaningless in 10 years or a year, or will it still have the same power? I mean, I know my answer,
but I guess
I want to hear what you say.
I mean, I think timelessness in terms of music, like aspiring for timelessness, is just going to fall flat on its face. That for me is not of the idea of actually something being dated actually makes it kind of timeless because it's a capsule of a period of time. It's a thought that you've got that's sort of like solidified in something, and I think that's kind of why this song is so interesting as like a protest song. We got a little bit more information. Yeah. Mark has said he's definitely guilty, so Bob's wrong with the song. We've got.
I've been misrepresented. They're trying to get me canceled, people. I said,
yeah.
I personally think
I'm just trying to make you feel innocent. Like you're in the song. Maybe you are the hurricane of this podcast.
I feel like I am.
Yeah.
Crossfire hurricane.
Yeah. Excellent. I don't have anything more to say about the hurricane.
Well, I mean, maybe the specific is what makes an artistic production universal. When you aim at universality, you fail. So you've got to dig into the specific and the personal and the historical, and that's what gives it universal significance. So, I mean, that was pretty much a rhetorical question because I know the answer for myself, and I basically agree with Crazy Joe. What about Tomek?
I think we should move on to ISIS.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
All right. Well,
you love ISIS.
All right. So number one a highlight for anyone since we're talking about?
No.
Okay.
It's a medium for me.
Okay. I would say the same for me. You could also consider this, like, since we're talking about folk heroes and so on. A lot of protest songs have been written about morally ambiguous folk heroes like John Dillinger, like these are Pretty Boy Floyd or someone, like criminals.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily virtuous people that you should look up to, but they are still like lionized and made heroic in certain
Bob
folk
Dylan's
songs.
got the one about John Lennon as well. Not someone we should necessarily lionize at all, or keep.
Oh
No, we're not gonna. Sorry. Sorry.
You lose me there, but
sorry. Hey, fair enough.
All right. Well, track number 2 is one of my highlights. I don't care what anyone says.
Me too, man.
Oh
my yeah?
God.
Absolutely. I love this song.
Oh, bloody hell.
It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think the one note quality that has been alluded to is what I like about it. It becomes it becomes like a chant or a mantra, or it's trance music,
Yeah.
kind of like that. What was the album that Brian Jones recorded with the Moroccan groups? You just get into this groove that lasts for 10 minutes and you just kind of become one with the music. What's that
Gnawa
style of
music? Gnawa.
Yes, Gnawa, right. I think it has that quality, and probably he was listening to that kind of thing. He probably had that Brian Jones album, the master singer or the master musicians of Jujuka, is it? I mean, that it has that tribal sort of desert trance music feel for me, which is what I love. And then also lyrically, I love it. I mean, this is I'm just going to say it. Call me whatever, hate on me if you like. This is one of my favorite Dylan songs. I love ISIS.
Yeah, it's a
Cut that, chop it up.
Yeah.
Second one.
Yeah,
See,
I said it.
Yeah.
No, I mean just the I love ISIS out of context stuff would be funny.
Yeah.
Hence the
Joe, I
hence
think
the
it's time
photo
for you
here.
to yeah.
What's that?
Joe, let's give some of your reactions to Daesh.
There's a bit in I can't remember which verse it is where she's asked him about, oh, you've been away. Or where have you been? He goes, no place special. You look different. He goes like, well, I guess,
I love that line.
It's so good. Well, I guess. It's like I've gone through so much, and all you can say is you look different, and I love that. And also, because the opening verse sets up so well, he marries her on the 5th day, and he has to ride away, and he cuts his hair. I love this idea of like the only thing that kind of gives him. The image I have in my head is like he's riding off into the sunset. He's riding off and he sees the horizon, and that's the thing that gives him sustenance. That the horizon's always there ahead of him. That there's something for him to go towards. And then he goes on this spiritual journey of some sorts, maybe. And then you look different. Well, I guess.
Right.
I just think it's such a funny line to say, but it's very truthful as well. Because when you've not seen your parents for a while, they either say like, "Oh, you've lost weight," or "You've put on a bit of weight." And you go like, "Well, I guess." Yeah, that's kind of that's the thing that sort of hit out for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like the journey of the song, the narrative in general. It does. I don't know what you guys think about the whole like grave robber aspect. I mean, I don't know how closely you followed the story, and then so like this guy who initially invites him on this adventure, like the interpretation that I read, it then turns out to be just like a petty grave robber, and it's like Dylan feels kind of disillusioned by the whole thing, right? But I don't know. I don't know how important is like the quality of the story for you, or is it
not
just
at all?
Kind of fun to
not
be on
at
a
all.
ride?
No,
I don't even
same.
know. I don't even know what he's talking about, which is one of the things I like about it. It's just a beautiful hallucination.
The turquoise, the gold. You know, the sort of the idea. Or was it when he rhymes necklace with reckless? I was thinking about diamonds and the world's biggest necklace as we
The
rode
world's
through the
biggest
canyons.
necklace. Yeah.
Yeah, through the devilish cold. I was thinking about Isis, how she thought I was so reckless. Like, I just think
And
that's such a beautiful image.
There's a ambivalence towards Isis herself, right? Like,
Yeah.
on the one hand, he remembers all the best things she said, and then when he sees her, he curses her and rides on ahead. Like, what? Where did that come from? And then the next time they wed, something else is going to happen. So it's like, this is the eternal feminine. It's not any one individual. I'm looking at the Ginsberg liner notes here. I just lost it. It says, to Isis, moon, lady language creator, birth goddess, mother of Ra, Saraswati and Kali Matu, Hecate, Ea, Astarte, Sophia and Aphrodite, divine, mother. That shit's deep.
Is this a song that he tends to play quite a bit on tour? Or
Oh God, I doubt he's played this since the 70s. To be honest, if he's ever played it.
Oh, really?
I'll have a look if he's played it.
But why is that your initial reaction? I mean,
Because of the length, for one, and also probably what it's about.
Do any of these songs have much replay on his tours?
On his current tour, no.
Or I don't know, in the just in general, like in the last.
You can find live versions of Romance in Durango on YouTube.
Isis, he's played 46 times. The first time he played it was October 30th, 1975, and the last time he played it was May 25th, 1976. So it was less than a year of touring the song.
Why is that? You said the length, but I mean, is that really so prohibitive? It's not a particularly long song, I don't think.
I guess not, but maybe more just what it's about. You know, it's probably about his wife. You could maybe paint the image of like the grave robber being him touring, the turquoise, the gold, the big necklaces, the platinum records, the sold out arenas, those are the trophies he's looking for. And then she comes back and says, he comes back and she says, like, oh, you look different.
So you think it's just like too sensitive for him?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's a jam, It grooves.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of songs off Street Legal he only did for 5 months because of, how raw that album is. But
interesting.
I think Senor was the one song off that album that he sort of played into the 90s. But yeah, it's unlikely he'll ever play anything off this album again. Although saying that his recent set lists have been very, very odd, I must say. A lot of Under the Red Sky. I'm seeing him again in November, by the way.
That's exciting, man.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's going to be great. But yeah, no, he just, I don't know. He does drop songs. I mean, he's got such a huge discography. He couldn't possibly, cover them all. Again, I don't know.
Sure.
What's with the Cinco de Mayo reference? Did anyone look into that?
No.
Tomek, I'm counting on you. This is your field.
Yeah, it's true. It says, this doesn't seem to be an oblique... This is from Genius. This doesn't seem to be an oblique reference to anything in particular. Just says that note, too, that the 5th of May is Mexican Independence Day. And then I know that, he comes back and on the 5th day of May. So, and when he goes off, the guy tells him we'd be back by the 4th, which is like convenient.
An anniversary.
Yeah.
Is it a foreshadowing of Durango in some way?
Maybe.
I mean, it's a great line. I've never known what the significance was, though, but I've always
sometimes
liked
it just fits.
Yeah, it's just part of the mystery.
Yeah. No, I don't have a reading on the Cinco de Mayo elements of it, but that's not like a significant date in my head anyway. Whereas maybe it is for you two.
Not really.
Yeah, we come from border states a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
from
it's,
Arizona, no?
And Texas, so yeah, they're both border states.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, it's a highlight for me, and Tomek, you're saying it is for you as well?
Absolutely. I've got one little quote for you, which is Jacques Levy's son Julian told Bell, Dylan invited my dad over to work on some songs. Dylan said he had a little piano thing he'd been working on, and he started out banging out those first piano chords to Isis. My dad, Jacques Levy, just spat out, I married Isis on the 5th day of May, and Dylan loved it. So they just kept on going with it like that, creating this story until it reached a conclusion. By the time it was done, Dylan loved it and was so excited he ran downstairs to the local bar and read the lyrics to whoever was sitting there. My dad always said there was no special symbolic meaning behind any of the images in Isis, that it was just a fun, adventurous kind of cowboy story.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah, I
you're
mean, that makes
really
sense.
bringing it now. Well done.
Whoa!
That's good stuff. So
Yeah.
Levy, yeah, wow. So the
Oh, well,
first line.
so Levy
comes
takes
from
credit
Levy.
for takes credit for that. So I'm going to call bullshit on it. That's what I'm going to say. Because no doubt Bob would never respond to that. So you can just say any old crap, can't you? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he did come up with it.
It's like VP candidate Waltz's son at the DNC. That's my dad. Oh, my dad. I don't know if you saw. I don't know if you saw that footage.
I didn't.
It was pretty nauseating.
No.
Oh, you didn't? Well, look it up.
No.
I'm not gonna put it in the show notes because it's too fucking disgusting.
Was this is he the vice president candidate?
Yeah, Cop Mala's running mate.
Wee.
Yeah, so his son is
the Great Plan 2025. Let's get it going. Whatever it's called. What's it called? The Big
Agenda
Reset?
2025.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming regardless.
We're gonna send some Russian bots, baby. We're gonna bot that shit.
All right, moving on to track 3.
Yes.
Everyone's favorite, Mozambique.
Oh, yeah. What a weird song. Was he paid to do this song? Like, was he paid by the government
tourist agency?
Yeah. I hear Bob Dylan's recording a new album. Well, let's call him up. Just such a weird nothing song. It's
like Arsenal with the Visit Rwanda.
Well, did he go there? Did he actually visit? Did he go there on vacation?
No, I think the tourist board sent him some pictures, and it was just like, that'll do. And then,
I mean, we did mention in the liner notes how he says we have relations in Mozambique.
Yeah, he banged someone.
There's lots
there.
of pretty girls in Mozambique, and plenty time for good romance.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody likes to stop and speak. Oh, God, this is just terrible. What a funny song this is. Just such a weird... It's actually a weird anomaly in terms of the album as well, just in terms of, like, tone. Like, it feels so toneless to me compared to, like, the other ones. Like, you know, Hurricane's got the, as I say, an energy to it, and Isis has got, like, a sort of romantic sort of mysticism, I think, to it. This, like, just... feels like it's like a joke more than anything, like a joke song.
Yeah,
I bet you could write a song about Mozambique. I don't even know where it is. Like,
I've got the quote for you here. This song began as a game between Dylan and Jacques Levy to find as many rhymes for Mozambique as possible.
Oh, okay.
Is this from the Sun again, or?
Yeah.
No.
My dad
legit,
said the song was really bad and he didn't write it, but
no, but I think that has multiple sources.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Can be corroborated, yeah. And also, it like corresponds with Mozambique's independence. Which
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So is it not possible that he was like sympathetic to some decolonization movement at that time, and so he just wanted to like celebrate their independence,
especially if he had a good time there, which I don't know.
Yeah. He experienced romance. Look at the Mozambique flag. I don't know if you can see it well. But
I see that, that gun sickle thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty dope, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good look.
Interesting.
I'd like that on more flags. The gun sickle combo. Stick down the old USA flag, you know what I mean? The old red,
more
white, and
honest. It's more honest.
blue. Well, true.
It's right across the way from Madagascar, for
Mm.
what it's worth. I don't know anything about it historically, but I do remember hearing that they won their independence around this time.
Who were they colonized
Portugal,
by?
no? Or
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough. So, like, them and Angola were, like, the two Portuguese ones.
Oh, it was Portuguese.
Yeah, within a year of the Portuguese coup, most of the settler population had left Mozambique, and on June 25th, 1975, Mozambique became an independent single-party state. There you go.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Did I?
Nailed it.
I maybe should not mention this, but I thought I remembered reading that at that time it was kind of after independence, it became like a tourist hub for a lot of Westerners, especially hippie types. So, is it not possible that he went there and did experience that romance? I don't know. I've not read anything to that effect, but
Morocco was a big beatnik spot.
Oh, for sure.
But
Yeah, of course.
That's a long way away.
If you're suggesting that he had like a romance in Mozambique, I'm gonna guess from this song it wasn't a significant one, considering his somewhat disinterested tone throughout this song. So,
well, it was all daiquiris, and I don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
All the couples dancing cheek to cheek.
Yeah.
It's very nice to stay a week or two and maybe fall in love, just me and you. God,
it's pretty cringy, yeah. It's hard
awful.
to even...
It's god awful. This
you
is
guys
like
are making me hate it more than I did before.
I still love it. Like, it's even bad. Bob Dylan is hilarious and good. Like, I'd rather listen to like the worst of Bob, which is stuff like Mozambique, than like the best of like 90% of musicians. To
Eric
be honest,
Clapton.
They're just like, Eric Clapton or Lou Reed. Let me take a shot at Lou Reed. I take that back. I love Lou Reed. I love Lou
Crazy
Reed.
Joe.
The Crazy Joe again. Yeah. Oh, he's a wild man, isn't he? All the sacred cows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I love the Bells. If you'd ever talk about a Lou Reed album, I'd come on to talk about the Bells. That's a great album.
I don't know his discography well, but I like what I've heard.
Bells is good.
Let's keep moving, Mark, because
I'm still in shock from the Lou Reed disc.
I know it wasn't real. It wasn't legitimate.
Okay.
I want that to be clear.
Okay.
I'm not a big Velvet Underground fan, though. I'll say that much.
I'm shocked again.
Yeah,
I'm shocked again.
Velvet Underground.
Yeah.
I'll save my David Bowie opinions for another episode. I don't want to overdose you on my bad opinions.
Toxicity.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
What's the worst Bowie album, in your opinion?
You've just set me up perfectly to say all of them. No, it's what's the worst one?
Or what's the best?
I did defend him, by the way.
The best of a bad bunch.
The best Bowie album is probably Low.
Okay. Good for you.
You're not going to agree with that?
Absolutely. My favorites are Low and Hunky Dory.
We discussed Low, bro, on a texting episode.
No shit. Why do you think I picked it?
Yeah, that was for Joe.
Berlin.
I was addressing Joe there.
Yeah. I picked the Berlin trilogy because that's my favorite Bowie period.
But I think, I don't know, I just sort of like... what was the album where he had the turn away from like... I'm androgynous, sexually ambiguous, to no, I'm a heterosexual man and I definitely have sex with women. Do not question me. Is it Let's Dance? Is the first album where he made that turn?
I think he made a statement like that around that time.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Let's Dance has got a couple weird songs on there.
Let's keep moving.
I'm not a glam rock guy. I'll just say that much. That's more my thing.
Come on.
Sorry,
the digressions are the best part of this.
They are, but we're on track 3, and
T-Rex is better than Bowie. Anyway, One More Cup of Coffee, great song.
Bowie wrote their most famous song, so let's keep that in mind.
Oh, fair enough.
All right, Here it is, track 4, One More Cup of Coffee, call back to season 3, episode 10. Tomek, take it away.
Yeah, I don't know how I found this reference, but I think it was actually from Genius as well. But yeah, there's a T.S. Eliot line. I have measured out my life in coffee spoons. So we thought that
That's a good line.
Yeah, I think that I don't have anything cool to say.
Well,
so I refuse
What
to.
about One More Cup of Coffee?
No, I mean about that particular reference. I like the song, but
Do you know the story?
He was in France, right? Attending
Yeah.
some kind of festival, right? Help me out, bro.
That's not the story I've heard.
Okay,
I don't-
he's
I
in
don't- I don't know
France,
about the
though, yeah?
I don't know about the France thing. I know that
Okay.
he was hanging out with some gypsies.
I think it was in
And-
France, but anyway.
Yeah, they have gypsies there, but yeah, you know. Anyway, so he was hanging out with some gypsies, and he was leaving, and they asked him if he wanted anything, and he thought it'd be rude to say, "No, I'm okay, thank you," and then leave. So he said, "Oh, I'll take a cup of coffee." So they made him a cup of coffee, and then he left because he thought it'd be rude to just say like, "No, thanks, I'm going." So that last sort of like gesture of taking something, but the again, that sort of Western imagery just comes into this song so beautifully. You know, this idea of like he's almost like stumbled across this camp of gypsies and sees like, you know, the beautiful daughter of the chief, you know, and that he's so smitten with, you know, and that idea of the, you know, the valley below, like he's sort of like got to move on.
I love the way that
Down.
sounds, dude. It's just like in the valley below. Yeah, it's
The yodel, the Morrissey like yodel he has through this, you know, it's you know, it's beautiful.
I got some
Your
hot
eyes
quotes
are like
for
two
you now.
jewels in the sky, like that. He does that.
Nice.
Jewels. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna
It's good.
contribute some quotes and then let you guys speak more from experience. So,
Well,
Was
wait, before you
Okay,
do
go,
that,
go, go. Sure.
is there a consensus here that this is a highlight? Because it definitely is for me.
Yeah, definitely.
I
Definitely.
would
Beautiful.
say high mid
fiddle
for
violin.
me.
Okay.
Oh, come on, son.
Well, no, I mean, if I'm ranking the tracks, as I said, like I've got Isis and Oh Sister are my top 2.
Hmm.
So I would put One More Cup of Coffee in like the second tier.
Okay.
Mm.
But it's very good.
All right.
So, okay, now I've got quotes. Yes. First, this is from Dylan to Paul Zullo in 1991. Was that for a coffee commercial? No. One More Cup of Coffee is a gypsy song. That song was written during a gypsy festival in the south of France one summer. Somebody took me there to the Gypsy High Holy Days, which coincide with my own particular birthday. So somebody took me to a birthday party there once, and hanging out there for a week probably influenced the writing of that song. But the valley below probably came from someplace else. My feeling about the song was that the verses came from someplace else. Okay, that's not really that interesting.
That is
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
got that
disagree.
mystical feel of Isis too. I mean, it's otherworldly. Like that melody is just wow.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And mysterious and strange and bizarre. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And of course the fiddle sounds good. The background vocals are amazing.
Yeah.
Highlight.
And also this album version as well is like really close to the Rolling Thunder Review live touring band version as well. It's got that sort of the raggedness of this album fits beautifully into this one song. I think it's just so like raw. It's got like a real darkness to it. You know, like his lust for her. You know, it's you know, when he's talking about, you know, you've never learned to read or write.
Those are the next lines I wanted to talk about. Yeah, go on.
There's no books upon your shelf.
No
And your
books
pleasure
upon
knows no-
your shelf.
Yeah,
You fucking illiterate.
yeah. There's no books upon your shelf because you're a moron. Like this, and your pleasures know no limits. Your voice is like a meadowlark, and it's just like, but your heart is like an ocean, mysterious and dark. You know, it's like I shouldn't be attracted to you because you're clearly illiterate and uncultured. and yet I have an attraction to you of some sorts because of the foreign quality to her, of this French gypsy woman.
And she can see the future. I mean, that's her more positive
Yeah.
trait. So I'm just saying he is like acknowledging her, her other qualities. It's not just like you're dumb. Yeah. But
I'm thinking about the title of the album again as you say all this.
Yes.
Desire. Dark Desire.
Yes.
All right, let's close
I
out.
told you it's all about Bob staring at women. This is what this album's about.
Maybe that's why
all these women.
Maybe that's why I originally put it in my top 10.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So this is one of Tomek's highlights, "Oh Sister," and I put a picture of or two pictures of Joan Baez at his recommendation. Although I have no idea who it's about or if it's anyone in particular. But why did you tell me to? When I asked you, I had no picture for this slide. Why did you say find a Joan Baez pic?
I don't know. I guess just when I was looking for stock images of like Dylan and Oh Sister, like she was coming up a lot. I know that it's actually sung by Emmylou Harris, but yeah, and she's beautiful. But I mean, and there was a connection between the two of them. So yeah, I don't have a better answer. But
do you think when Baez heard this album, she was a bit like, "Oh, okay, I guess you've moved on to Emmylou Harris, kind of left me in the dust here." I say, I don't know.
Doesn't she come back into the picture or something? Again, I'm an outsider on Dylan. So.
I think she was there during the tour of Japan in the 70s, in the late 70s, when you did the Budokan shows. I think she was one of the backing singers for that. So yeah, I think so. But is there like an image or a line that stands out to you, Tom, considering this is like your favorite song on the album?
I think I just really appreciate the kind of like gospel feel.
Yeah.
The tenderness, and I just think melodically it's like exceptional.
It's got like it's kind of a more well-formed, rich song compared to the others, I think.
Yeah.
It actually kind of feels like the most well-formed song on the album,
right?
Like, musically speaking. I mean,
it's
even
less
though
of like just verse on some topic, and yeah, as you said,
it's kind of it's almost like a bullet sort of thing because it's not like a long drawn out. It's only like, what was it, 4 or 5 verses?
Yeah,
like, it's not very long,
right?
But yeah, I don't know, and it's got like a tenderness to it that the other songs don't have. Each other one's kind of got like a sort of an untamed quality to it. And it's almost like if the song is about Joan Baez, it kind of shows his respect towards her. Like, I'm not going to give you some fucking tossed off song here. I'm actually gonna write a proper song for you. I'll get to the song about my wife later, but the song for you, Joan, that's going to be the standout.
What do you think about just like the sister brother stuff? Like, sister, my brother to you.
This is why I think it might be about Joan Baez, if we can say that, because of course they were romantically involved at one time, and now they have a more platonic relationship and professional relationship. So that makes sense to me. But let me just share Ginsberg's thoughts. Oh, sister, who's he talking about? Eternal sister? Good citizen sisters. He's still tender friend. Lost alone, loved like a thin, terrified guru by every seeker in America who's heard that long-vowed voice in heroic ecstasy triumphant. How does it feel? And now come down from that mountain of sound, singing like a biblical mortal. I don't know if that really enlightened anything, but it's what he said.
It's like if you put Ginsberg into ChatGPT, like it's like it almost feels like a parody of himself,
Yeah.
Throw in ecstasy a couple times, hallucinations,
something
eternal.
biblical, something maternal. Did he say maternal this time? Whatever. I mean, it's another eternal feminine vibe, like Isis, and even though it's personal at the end with Sarah, there's still, and the Magdalena and Romance in Durango. They're all of these variations on the theme of the eternal feminine. This is a short song, unlike this podcast, which is now over an hour and a half long.
Speaking of which, I'm going to need a 45 second break, okay?
Piss break?
Yes, sir. Cheers.
Yeah, I might need one as well, actually, to be honest.
I'll leave it running. Go ahead.
Should I go as well, or?
Yeah, I'll go too. We'll leave it running. I'll cut it later.
All right, cool. Cheers.
And we're back with side 2 of Bob Dylan's funniest album of the 70s. That is Desire from 1976. So side 2 rather, begins with Tomek's favorite track, or one of his favorites.
Favorite mobster.
Yeah, favorite mobster. Crazy Joe Gallo. The track is called Joey, and those watching can see a picture of him in court. And anyone know what that instrument is? I'll just tell you. It's the bouzouki, which is apparently featured on this track, according to Wikipedia. So here's another, I guess it's like a gypsy instrument, right? I think it's Greek in origin, but it's a stringed instrument. Looks kind of like and sounds kind of like a Russian balalaika. You can't. It's not very loud in the mix, but I did hear it after I saw that it was there. But interestingly, side 2 begins like side 1 with a biographical song about an alleged criminal, I guess we could say. So there's that kind of outlaw vibe continuing there.
A lot of outlaw and crime on this one, isn't there? Hurricane, ISIS, One More Cup of Coffee, Joey, and then obviously the greatest crime of all, infidelity, which comes in at the end with Sarah. But it's I don't know. The bit that gets me with this is the when you eventually get there is Joey, king of the streets, child of clay, Joey, what made them want to come and blow you away? It's like, how long is this song? 11 minutes. And he ends it like that.
Don't remind me.
It only feels like it.
Fucking hell. Do you?
Yeah. Why the reference to oral sex in this? I mean, blow you away. That's what he's talking about, right?
Or he's an old clay statue. I don't know.
Getting blown.
Yeah, sure. I guess he's got to shock you with some element of this song. Do either of you actually like this song?
I think
Tomek does. He loves it. I don't. For the record,
no.
I think the songwriting is impressive. Again, if we talk about I think the choice of subject matter is interesting. Like the whole idea of just romanticizing this guy, and
the sensitive gangster.
Yeah, and I think it's catchy. It's like the biggest earworm for me, and again, that's like a positive and a negative, but it's like I can't just constantly Joe, it's just like that particular refrain just is really stuck.
Yeah.
But do you feel? Yeah, go ahead.
No, go on, Mark.
Well, does anyone feel sympathy for this guy? Does the song make you think, he's a misunderstood gangster?
That's what they all think, though.
In the universal sense that I don't think there are bad people, so it's like he's still a human being, in his context, trying to get by. So I don't hate him.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the fact is, he did read a lot in prison. Even I heard he wasn't reading the stuff that Dylan says he was reading. I heard he was reading Sartre, Kafka,
Ted Lewis,
Victor Hugo, Leo Tolstoy, and Machiavelli.
For a really good prison time. Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, this wasn't a dumb person. This was a somewhat cultivated person, and that's
Who made a specific career choice? Yeah, that's the.
Or was landed in a particular career, rather than
Sure,
necessarily.
Well, there's
Sure, yeah.
there's a romance with these criminal figures in folk music and pop culture. We talked about like Dillinger and I don't know, Billy the Kid and so on. And in the UK, they're the Cray brothers of the 60s.
Which ties into Ted Lewis, who
ooh.
they're referenced in a couple of his books. So there you go. Ted Lewis, Bob Dylan, kind of similar sort of writers thematically.
Well, I was going to say,
lyrics are good.
Morrissey reputedly admired the Cray brothers or thought they, were unfairly maligned.
Morrissey thinks a lot of things, so I'm not going
to. Yeah.
I'm going to pin him for one thing in particular. And if I am going to pin him for one thing, it won't be for his opinion on the Crays, if they're misunderstood people.
Fair enough.
I say that as a Morrissey fan, by the way, listener.
I just think there's a lot of good imagery, right? I think we have to kind of detach him from this character that he's inspired, right? And just so the character that he's inspired is like has certain admirable qualities and just
the children with the gun
exactly
thing.
The children with the gun thing, protecting his family at the end, and it very much fits into that like Godfather aesthetic when you're like staggering out onto the streets of Little Italy. You're like you're in a clam bar. I don't know. I just saw a lot of the Godfather there.
Well, yeah, and also Mean Streets, the Scorsese movie, where he's kind of tapping into the street energy of those characters. Like the Harvey Keitel character in that movie, who is like, he's a gangster, but he's got some morality. He's got some virtues.
Yeah.
Compared to like the De Niro character in that movie. Speaking of films, I reviewed a film for my podcast, 10 Terabyte Hard Drive, which you can find in the description down below, listener. But reviewed a movie for that podcast called Travolta et moi, which translates to Travolta and Me, which is a French made-for-TV movie, right? And it's about this young girl whose parents go off for the day. They have a bakery and they're going off to sell their baked goods in a town, sort of fate sort of thing. And they leave her to run the bakery by herself. But it's the same day as a girl at school has a birthday party at an ice rink for an ice skating thing. And I won't reveal how, but she manages to get out of it to then go to the ice skating thing. The movie's very feral, is how I described it. It's got like a real animalistic quality to it. And I don't like the song Joey until in that movie she's skating on ice and they use Joey in it. They use Joey to see this kid's skating party. And I was like, oh, it kind of works here. It kind of works. This kind of like weird, raggedy song works in this context. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, maybe Joey's not so bad. And then I listened to it yesterday. I'm like, yeah, it kind of sucks. But I still, again, it ties into my thing of like this album, when you become a Dylan fan, I think becomes quite funny and amusing to think, again, the Magnus Opus, the rocking Street Legal, and then you got Desire slap bang in the middle, being this kind of ragged piece of work, and it's got like a charm to it, even in its badness. So, yeah.
Well said.
I don't have much more to say about Joey, but yeah, apart from the kids with the guns, I'm around too many children, he'd say. They should never know of one.
Yeah.
I think it's, yeah.
Well, I asked Mark, like, about the Child of Clay thing. That kind of threw me off. Like, what is exactly is he trying to say about Joey with that particular phrase?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I referred you to the biblical phrase, feet of clay. I don't know if he had that in mind, but...
But again, would that be just like emphasizing his kind of innocence then?
His brittle, vulnerability or something. No, not innocence, but just like, I mean, it could be, but to me, it would be more like his vulnerability and instability, maybe. Right?
Sure, and I guess I'm kind of tying those together.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I have not thought deeply about this song because I just don't care enough to do so. It's kind of like something I would typically fast forward when I listened to this on CD. And I did own the CD at one time. I don't have it with me now, but
It's a curio, this song, more than anything. I think, at least when you, as a fan, it becomes a bit of a curio. But I don't think it can ever be more than that for me. Yeah, I don't see it turning around. But I guess when you got fresh ears to it and you hear it for the first time, you're like, what is this ridiculous song? It can maybe have that charm for you, but yeah, it's a skip for me every single time.
it's so slow. It drags so much, but I guess that's part of the charm for Tomek. All right. Well, you made an interesting comment in our text exchange. You said it's like every one of the songs on this album should be like 10 BPMs faster, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Right?
I just said it's hard in our like generation where everything has got so fast paced. It's definitely demands a different sensibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna just say at the outset, one of my highlights. I love Romance in Durango. In fact, it is in my Textually Deviant Dylan playlist, so that will definitely be in the show notes. Go ahead, attack me, everyone.
Her passport shows a face from another time and place. She looks nothing like that. It's what a cruel thing to say about a woman aging. Just yeah. I love this song. I think it's great. I love the energy of it. I love that it's got like a winking charm to it, as we see there a picture of Dylan winking next to
is there any like aspect of cultural appropriation going on here? Like, are we thinking about, because it's a bit cringe for me, like him doing all the Spanish, and like in a way,
really?
like I want to give him props for it, because it's like you can see it as either appropriation or like honoring,
homage,
right? Homage, yeah. Which
Wait,
I think...
are you implying that Bob is like a sex tourist in Durango? Is that what you're like? Like how guys go to Thailand?
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I'm more thinking just about the sound itself, and like,
oh, okay.
Like, is it really like, yeah, and the Spanish. That's and I love
would you say
sex and blister, son. Like
the sex.
He's rolling. It sounds. I don't know. Yeah, go on.
The sex tourism is in Juarez, not Durango.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Well, I mean, according to Dylan himself, right? Think of
sure.
What is it? Is it Tom Thumb's Blues? No. Yes,
I was thinking
it is
Wanted Man. The song he wrote for Johnny Cash.
Well, I'm thinking of when you're in Juarez and it's Easter time too. Isn't that Tom Thumb's Blues? I'll have to look it up. Show notes. Oof. Neil Young covered it pretty well, actually.
Well, they're also the Juarez thing where he goes like, went the wrong way into Juarez with Juanita on my lap, being the line there. Well, I'm thinking like, okay,
Juanita.
Well, I'd had to do it how Johnny Cash sang it, so okay. I can't. Yeah,
it's funny because my boss's name is Juan, and just like watching all of my colleagues struggle to pronounce his name, like he gets such a wide range. Like it's pretty easy for me just because I grew up with that name, but
Juan.
Yeah, Juan. Okay, but it's like Juan, Juan.
Juan. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
But people just like Juan, or I don't know, just or
they got a lurgy. Why are they saying it?
I don't know. It's just it's painful, but yeah. I mean, what about my initial like charge? Is there?
No, I take it as homage. And okay, it's appropriation. I don't care. That doesn't bother me. By the way, it is just like Tom Thumb's Blues, when you're lost in the rain in Juarez and it's Easter time too. And then there's this great line: if you see Saint Annie, please tell her thanks a lot. I cannot move my fingers. They're all in a knot. I don't have the strength to get up and take another shot. And my best friend, the doctor, won't even tell me what it is I've got. That sounds like some some sex tourism gone wrong.
Yeah, or like a Cormac McCarthy sort of journey someone's been on there. It's that's kind of the thing with the Spanish thing. That was the first thing I thought of was Cormac McCarthy and like how he sort of like has people using Spanish throughout his books,
Yeah.
without any sort of explanation of the Spanish. So, it was a bit difficult for me back in the day when I didn't know how to speak Spanish. Still don't, but I didn't have Google Translate to hand to translate it. But yeah, I don't know. I just I like the tone of this song a lot. I think it again makes a nice change from some of the sort of more ragged qualities of it.
Beautiful images, the Aztec ruins. I mean, okay, I hear you about the hot chili peppers and the blistering sun. I still like that, but the
I like it.
Aztec,
I'm just saying it feels corny in some
yeah,
way.
it maybe it is, but to me, this is one of those great narrative songs like Lily, Rosemary, and the Jack of Hearts on
Hot chili peppers and
blood on the
sorry,
tracks.
I just love that the opening line is just so.
And that's what I'm saying. It's so like, okay, now I'm doing Mexico. I don't know.
I mean, it's like a short story. Well, okay, but see, there's a reason for that, as maybe these two cinematic images suggest. Like he had just been there filming with Sam Peckinpah, and maybe Joe, you can tell us more about that.
What about Pat Garrett?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bob was on set for like a few days before he filmed, just sort of like hanging out. And he was quite taken with Peckinpah's working approach, which was to be drunk on set and to be firing guns into the air, to announce action on set. So, but yeah, I don't know. That's always like the image of Peckinpah as of this like drunk, like cowboy. But then you see the work and it's so well formed. It's like, well, I guess there was a bit of method to the madness. I guess he needed to have that sort of lucidity that comes from being drunk. I don't know. I think that's kind of like the image I get from that. Then, if you're going to tie it into this song, is like, kind of just like, to keep going whichever way you can. Selling your guitar to the baker's son, just so you have a place to hide. I guess that kind of ties into the sort of like cowboy thing of like, I've just got to make it to the next day, which again would be something from a Peckinpah movie. Like, bring me the head of Alfredo Garcia. It's like got that sort of energy of like, just got to get to the next day. If I get to the next day, I'll be okay. Like, just got to keep going.
Yeah,
as best I can.
That's well, there's okay. Well, we'll take it. There's also an image. There's also an image here, a movie poster from Oliver Stone's underrated film Savages, in my opinion.
Are you a Stonehead?
I don't know. That might be overstating it, but I do like a lot of his work for sure. And I think this is an underappreciated film. And it's this song appears very effectively in this movie. So
I've never seen it.
I like it. I don't know what else to say about it. I've not seen the Peckinpah film, the Pat Garrett film.
Oh, shit, it's good.
Yeah, I've
good movie.
Of course I've seen his scene, but not the entire.
Have you seen his scene in the Dennis Hopper film Catchfire?
I after listening to your episode about it, I did watch that. Yeah.
Yes. Our styles and copacetic. That was the line, isn't it? He only has 2 lines, and it's very odd. Very odd performance from Bob. Very odd that he turns up for that one scene. It could have been anyone, but I guess actually you did need a famous artist to play that part, and Dennis Hopper showing off his friends with Bob Dylan maybe is hence the casting of that. But yeah.
All right, so this is a highlight for me. I mean, is there a consensus on that? Okay.
I need to give it more listens, because my issue is I would often start from track 1 and then like.
Perhaps... Oh my god, you psycho! What's wrong with you? You'd be exhausted by the time you get to this song. Then
exactly, and I do think that was often like.
See, now when I listened to it yesterday, I had the opposite thing of like God, I'm exhausted after Joey, and then this comes in.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm back in it.
It's
Let's
a palate
go.
cleanser, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the aperitif or the
And as for his Spanish,
Mara del Capo.
Tomek, which you mentioned, it's much better than Joe Strummer's Spanish on Spanish Bombs. So
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Joe Strummer of The Clash.
Okay.
Spanish
It's
Bombs.
a song on London Calling.
Not great
Not a good
pronunciation.
Are you a fan of the song?
I like the song, but his Spanish pronunciation is subpar, let's say. All right, moving on to track 8. Everyone's favorite, Black Diamond Bay.
I love
this is no one's favorite, but is
this
it?
album?
Or is it? I don't know. I
love this song.
Okay.
I love this song. I love the musicality of it. I love the fact that the Romance and Durango bleeds into this. Because when I was listening to it yesterday, again, it was like this. Hold on, I don't remember Romance and Durango ending like this. It was just like, oh no, they've just slipped into the next one. So it kind of threw me for a second.
Yeah.
And it kind of, again, it was that thing that I needed to wake me up to it. But again, I love like the imagery of it. Sorry, I ended up quoting this before. I'm really sorry about that because I was getting ahead of myself. But that thing of like her passport shows a face from another time and place. She looks nothing like that. Coming from this, just again like the cruelty of that line, I think really sort of sits in there nicely. But yeah, I don't know. And just what's the image of the feet in his bare feet with a rope around his neck? No, hold on. Then the Greek appears on the second floor in his bare feet with a rope around his neck. I think it's just like, again, I don't know, the imagery of it has this, I don't know, I think it's quite potent, again, compared to the rest of the album, which I think some of the imagery falls a bit flat for me. On like, I guess because there's so many like, or at least there's 2 massive songs on it that don't really click for me as such, and it takes me a while to sort of like wake up from them. And I don't know, I sort of appreciate the sort of more directness of this song compared to the other ones. Or maybe not the directness, but more sort of concise quality of it. I think that's why Oh Sister stands out for me as well on this album, is like the conciseness of the imagery, the conciseness of the song. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think the musicality of this one is, I don't know, it's a lot more diverse. It's got a little bit more of a change of tempo. It's got a change of energy to it compared to the rest of it. It feels less ragged compared to the rest of the album.
Yeah. Tomek?
I don't have too much to say about this song, but I do think it's funny that on the Rap Genius site where I'm looking at the lyrics, there's an advertisement that says, "See Bob Dylan live. Get tickets as low as $8." So just find that funny.
Yeah.
Hear him play Black Diamond Bay. Which has been a part of his set list never.
I like the opening to verse 7. I was sitting home alone one night in LA watching old Cronkite on the 7 o'clock news. It seems there was an earthquake that left nothing but a Panama hat and a pair of old Greek shoes. Didn't seem like much was happening, so I turned it off. So I turned it off and went to grab another beer. Okay,
that's great.
I'll stop there. Yeah.
He's played it once live, May 25th, 1976, and I wonder if there's a recording of it. Yes.
Well, there's an image here. Those of you watching the slideshow can perhaps see this book cover. It's Joseph Conrad's Victory, and you'll remember there was an image of Conrad on the back of the album cover. So apparently, I didn't look into the details, but this novel, which apparently is one of Joan Didion's favorite novels, this was one of the inspirations for Black Diamond Bay. I don't know if anyone has any insight into that bit of trivia, but that was something I learned.
I've not read it, so I can't comment, I'm afraid.
Nor have I. Tomek, you're a Conradian.
I'm kind of in the darkness on this. Like, my heart kind of shut down at this point.
But
you follow my little pun there, no?
No, No, I didn't.
Heart of Darkness. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, I told you this is the part of the album that kind of trailed off from me. So
Yeah. Not
it perked
not a
back up
highlight
for
for
Sarah
me.
though, didn't it?
a little bit.
Oh, I love that song. I love it.
Yep, for me, it's a highlight. Closing
Sarah.
it out, number 9. Track number 9, end of side 2. It's
A
Sarah.
psychotic song. An absolutely psychotic piece of work. Can we talk about the production of this song quickly?
Please.
So he, he hadn't been the most loyal of husbands, had old Bob, and so he's done this album where he's singing with Emmylou Harris throughout, a woman that he's cheated on his wife with, and a song about Joan Baez, whatever else. And he ends this album with Sarah, which is essentially a song of "Please don't divorce me, please. Look how great look all these great memories I have of our marriage." And the version you hear on it is the version where he brought her into the recording studio and she was in the recording booth watching him sing this song of like, "Please don't divorce me," and then she divorced him. So that's,
but they stayed together. I heard afterwards. I mean, they were still together for a little while. Like this.
No, not for that long. She didn't like hear him go like, "There's your divorce paper." Like it took a little bit of percolation.
What I'm trying to say is, I think it maybe did help prolong the relationship slightly. That's all I'm saying.
I think it was a matter of weeks, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I heard it wasn't long.
It was a bit afterwards, but anyway, we won't quibble over that.
So this is the analog to Bowie's "Be My Wife," which he wrote for Angela Bowie before they were divorced. I'm thinking also of how Bowie, was inspired by movies he was in to write new music.
Yes.
Interesting connection.
Can I just go through the lyrics that make me laugh the most? Sarah, sweet virgin angel, sweet love of my life. Radiant jewel, mystical wife, I think is brilliant. Also, where's the one that really gets me? Oh, Sarah, oh Sarah, Scorpio Sphinx in a calcio, in a
calico.
In a calico. Sorry, I want to say calcio because I sing about football, obviously, all the time. In a calico dress. Again, fantastic.
But it seems like consistent with a lot of the type of imagery we're getting throughout the album. I mean, I understand
for
your
sure,
point,
but
I
think he really kicks it up for this one to be like, look, okay. I really love you. Like, please. Yeah. And, just the kelp, now the beach is deserted except for some kelp. I think that is a great thing about his songwriting is the picking up on an item or an image and sort of foregrounding it. Something that you wouldn't think of second.
It's funny because I see that at the end she's compared to a nymph, and
glorious nymph and with an arrow and bow.
It's funny because the rap genius says nymphs are creatures whom are typically promiscuous, so Dylan contradicts the virgin line.
Yeah. But Sarah, don't ever leave me, don't ever go. I just think this is I don't know, I just think it's a hilarious song. I think it's tragic. I think it then ties in beautifully into Street Legal, with the song New Pony, but also the opening up with Changing of the Guards is such a the fact if you listen to the albums in order, you go Sarah and then the next song is Changing of the Guards, I think is hilarious. But then also like Bob bigging himself up, staying up for days in the Chelsea hotel writing Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands for you. Like where he's just like, I've done a lot for you, I wrote that famous song about you. It's just like, he's very hubristic, his old Bob. So
well, and that makes it all the more pathetic. I mean, it's so raw and personal. Like before, we have Isis, we've got Sister, we've got these metaphorical representations of the eternal feminine, and this is as direct a plea as could be imagined, right? It's like you,
it's very
Sarah.
base.
Yeah. I mean, there's no hiding behind the mask of the bard, the poet, addressing the sad-eyed lady of the lowlands. It's just the soon-to-be rejected husband begging for his mate to stay.
Mm.
Agreed. Yeah.
I love this song. I really do love it.
Fucking
For,
cuck.
for
Not,
all its
not you. I'm talking.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Talking
Throwing some
about
shots out there at the end.
Bobby D.
No, it was. I don't know. Just I just love the desperation of the song and the want and need to be loved and to hold on to this trophy, and he's just failed miserably.
Yeah,
and it's just such a pathetic.
I think that's why. I think that's why
It's very-
it works, because it is
Yeah,
so.
I mean-
it's so raw, so moving, even though it's also absurd and pathetic, as we say. But it is one of the highlights for me.
Yeah, and also like that thing of the, the male trope of messing everything up and destroying things and being a bad partner. But I did one good thing. I wrote that great song for you, and now I'm writing another one. It's like, doesn't that make up for all of it? What about our kids? It's like, it's probably not worth staying with this man, just for those 2 songs. But
And what about all the good times we had? That's a typical
kelp
line. Yeah, the kelp, and then the kids were eating seafood or something. And
yeah,
remember that? We were in a bar in Portugal. You had coffee. See, I remember all the details. Don't leave.
yeah.
I'm getting better.
It's brilliant. Absolutely love this song. It's maybe not my favorite song, but it's for me. It's the highlight, if that makes sense.
Oh.
It's like if I was to surmise what desire is, it's this song, which is, I'm desiring to keep this wife who I've completely mistreated terribly, and I'm going to do it in the most stereotypically male way of, remember that one good holiday we had 8 years ago? No? Okay, well, I do, so, means something to me, maybe.
Well, maybe we've cracked the mystery of the title. Like, this is the ultimate desire song. And is it also the funniest because of all this pathetic lyricism that we talked about? For
me, it is.
Yeah.
For me, it
makes sense.
I don't know about you. What about you, Tom? Do you think this album's funny now? Like, in retrospect?
I see those aspects. I definitely see those aspects. I like how you've brought it back to just the clumsy. I think, what's the other word that I liked that you used at the start of the show to describe that kind of frenetic nature? I can't remember the adjectives you used at the beginning. It was something like, it's like sloppy, but it is a better word.
I've got very bad COVID brain, so I don't really remember what I said about 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
It's like... No, I don't have COVID brain. Although I have never quite been the same since I had COVID. So, despite what all you lunatics on the internet think, that Chinese bioweapon really is effective. So let's just.
Was the word shambolic or sloppy or?
It might have been sloppy. I know I heard shambolic repeatedly, but it was still another word though.
Why don't you listen back to the podcast when it comes out and be like, that's the word Joe was thinking of. And then just bring it up on the next episode to tie it back to this one. So it'd be like...
I wanted to ask you, like, just this tendency, I mean, maybe it only happens twice, but, like, crafting the whole hook on a person's name, that just seems kind of weird to me. Like, the Joey and then the Sarah, it's like, I'm just going to sing your name over and over. And I don't know. I don't
Can you imagine what it must have been like for her to stand there and watch him do this, to debase himself like this for her love?
Exactly.
And instead of going like, wow, he's really put himself out there for me, she's probably like, I just want to get out of this recording studio. This is hideously embarrassing.
Somehow, in my day today, I heard the quote, "No one begs anymore." So maybe that's...
What do you mean, like begs for someone's like love?
Yeah, or in general, like nobody like prostrates themselves to that extent. So maybe Dylan's like holding it down for the state of begging.
Interesting.
How many times did he perform this live?
Oh my god, I'm gonna guess none. I'm gonna guess none. Or maybe he did do it a few times, hasn't he? 33 times. October 30th was the first time, 1975, and the last time was January 25th, 1976. So a mere 3-month run for dear old Sarah.
So do any of these tracks like survive to performances today?
As I say, Romance and there's some live versions of Romance and Durango.
One More Cup of Coffee.
I think that
2009.
Also, yeah, there you
go. Is there a particular period that he tends to draw from for his performances these days?
To be honest, it's at least when he's doing the Rough and Rowdy Ways tour. It's Rough and Rowdy Ways, the last album. He's doing a bit off of Tempest at the moment. So when I'm seeing him, I hope he breaks out, Duquesne Whistle. I would pop quite hard for that one if that came on. But yeah, I don't know. It tends to be a bit more scattershot. Like he's picking just left and right songs. He's done a couple off Blonde on Blonde recently. So yeah, I don't think he's really discriminating. There's certain albums he definitely doesn't go back to, like Street Legal. Like he just doesn't do that. Yeah, quite a lot of the 80s stuff he doesn't really do that much now. So yeah.
I heard I think I read something like he's going back to the folk stuff like for the first time in a long time. Like he's done a couple of like, is that a thing or did I like mishear or?
Yeah, I mean he's done some folk stuff recently. I mean, hold on, let me bring up the set lists from. And
sorry, I know it's very late, particularly in Taipei, so I want to.
Oh, it's only 2:30.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, I can't get one off the top of my head.
Sure, we can.
Yeah, we'll save that for the show notes. But we did it, people. We listened to the entire thing, sides 1 and 2, all 9 tracks. Well, we listened earlier, but we talked the shit out of these songs. And we'll just close it out with this interesting tweet. Joe, I'll let you read it since you supplied this.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So, yes, this comes from @Xenomorph247. Guy who's listened to one Bob Dylan song. This guy sucks. Guy who's listened to 100 Bob Dylan songs. Saying he's the most important songwriter of the last 60 years is an understatement. He is so much more than just a musician. And then guy who's listened to 600 Bob Dylan songs. This guy sucks. And let me tell you, that is absolutely not true. Guy who's listened to 600 Bob Dylan songs, this guy sucks. And it owns, is what that should say at the end.
Huh, nice.
What Bob Dylan album are you going to have me on for next time? What are we going to do?
Well, it's your
Are we going to have to do a 60s one? Should we do a 60s one? I mean, I'll leave it up to you, but...
Well, let's have a think on that. I don't know, maybe something later. Maybe Rough and Rowdy Ways, actually.
Ooh.
I'd like to go deeper into that.
Oh, man.
But we could go back in time.
Maybe we should do like Blonde on Blonde or Highway 61 or something. Bring it all back home.
Of course, I'd be down for that.
I don't know, I just think like, giving Tom just...
Yeah, he needs that part of his education.
The late period sicko stuff is probably, not always the best things to do. I don't know. It's like when, people get into a filmmaker. I'm bad for this, where like there's a filmmaker that I get into and I immediately go for like the late films when they're broke and, they're at their worst. And I'm just like, let me watch that stuff first. I'm kind of bad for that. I know, but hang on. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks again for joining us. Your contributions were invaluable.
Thank you.
It sounds like not valuable, but of course that's not what I mean. We can't value them. They're so beyond value. Seriously, great conversation. And yeah, let's do it again. We'll figure out which Dylan album we'll discuss next. But immediately, what is the next text, Tomek?
So yeah, I think we're gonna try and discuss Don Quixote by Cervantes. I don't exactly know how we'll structure it, and I don't think you haven't read it in its entirety, right? So
I did long ago.
okay, nice.
Yeah, but it's been a while.
So we'll
So
have to think about how to
just
approach
be,
it strategically.
Yeah.
To make a discussion out of
that's
it.
that's a pretty substantial text for texting. But you call the tune.
Yeah, well, I think for my own erudition and stimulation, I would love to just chat about some of its themes and its kind of place in the literary canon and so on. So I'm sure we'll get some jamon out of that bone.
Sounds good. We can do that. All right, everyone. As always, subscribe to the Substack. I'm at Mark Will Wright, WRITE.substack.com. Tomek is at tomekb.substack.com. We'll have a video of this episode up on YouTube soon. Just check out at Mark Will Wright, WRITE. Thanks again for joining us. This has been Season 3, Episode 15 of Texting. Our text was his funniest album of the 70s, Bob Dylan's Desire from 1976. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers, everyone.